Good evening, everyone. Welcome and thank you for being here with everyone to study, listen, to think and constitute our mind according to the teachings of the fully enlightened one. So, as usual, we will start with the refuge prayer and 4 immeasurables. Oyenda Buddha Dharma Sangha Aitere Ujenlatem by virtue Ajendala Ajare Buddha Utuebe Yendabu Dharma Sangha Aitere Ujenlatem by virtue Ajendala Ashare Vadavatuebe Endabu Dharma Sangha Aitere Ujenlatem by virtue Ajendala Ashare Buddha Udubi. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, aversion, those never. May all beings have happiness and cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they know a powerful happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell in equanimity, free from attachment, those never. May all beings happiness and the cause of happiness. May they be free from suffering and the cause of suffering. May they never part from the happiness that knows no suffering. May they dwell equanimity, free from attachment and aversion to those near and far, according to the intelligent and possession of it, whether Yadanda Dharma Agrela Agama Vego. So, welcome to the continuation of reading on History of Buddhism in India and Tibet by Buton Rinchen Drub. This book has 2 parts, book number 1 and book 2. Right now we are reading part of the book 2. The first book mainly talked about the importance of what is the actual Dharma that is called Buddhism, teachings of the Buddha, and it went on to the importance of study, and the importance of listening, and importance of contemplating on the meanings of what we listen, what we read, what we study, because it's like when you go and get something, then what is the use of it? So study, listening, reading, meeting together like this. Of course, it's very good to be with the fellow Dharma brothers and sisters, but even better is that when we lend our attention to the Dharma, from the one person reading and explaining, everybody is also reading it and listening to it, it gives out some kind of powerful ideas and thoughts that we do not always have at our disposal. So we become possessed by the knowledge that will empower us how to live and think and do and not do things. Because it is concerning the Dharma, and therefore Dharma restores our dignity. It shows our flaws. If other people showed it, we will feel offended. But when the Dharma shows it, it feels as if we are being helped. Because Dharma is not pointing it to any particular person, but it's relevant to everyone. So the Buddha's teaching is so relevantly heard by everyone, and we tend to take heed to it much more thoughtfully because of the incredible qualities and weight of command the teachings of Buddha carries. So that's why the emphasis of the merit of listening to Dharma in general, and particularly to Maya and the teachings, and then defining what is the Dharma and how many classes of the teachings there are, and how we as a student of Dharma, by remaining studious, and what are the qualities we should develop as a student, as a teacher, and as well as a person who really believe that they try to live their life according to the Dharma, and we become almost greatly boosted, matures us in many ways. It talks about the merit of listening to the Dharma and contemplating on it. And then it talks about what are the teachings and how rare it is to find the teachings of faith amidst all the other glittering objects and subjects that people find very enticed to go and learn and study or become good at it. So many things are promoted, like jumping at our face. Dharma never does jump at us. Dharma, to be able to find Dharma amidst all the things that we're looking for, it's said to be like fumbling in a pile of garbage and being able to find a piece of diamond. Has that ever happened to you? So therefore, being able to find Dharma through your search of life, in life itself, is a great inner calling. And so Buton is talking about the merit of listening and studying the Dharma in general, and particularly Mahayana teachings, and then talks about what the Dharma is and how it came about. So the main point of the book is called History of Buddhism. History really means story, chronological. It talks about people, places, and topics and subjects, and what is the consequences of that teaching, and how those people's life were transformed. So when you really learn the history of Buddhism, you get to know the identity in the early history of Buddha Dharma in India. And when you talk about going in Tibet, of course it talks about the people, places, and times, and activities, what they were like, what the teaching affected. So the proper history of Buddhism cannot begin with how the life of the Buddha itself. So thank you, Jamyangla, who started last week the life of the Buddha, the 12 great deeds of the Buddha, which I believe has been very interesting, because you'll get to hear many names. And it's good to know certain names, identity, people in life of Buddha and who they were, what they did, what was their relationship with Buddha, and how they contributed to the growth, span, and expansion of Buddhism, and so on. That's really what the history of Buddhism really gets to know, who is who in Buddhism. Of course, Buddhism actually teaches who's not who, but it's good to know who's not who, because there are many people who's trying to be who. So once you know everybody's who's who, then we know who's not who. It's quite interesting. Try to understand ourselves, but first we have to understand all those people who try to stay who. So anyway, I'm going to continue where Jamyangla stopped last week, on page 31 on the second volume, where the Bodhisattva. So in this book it talks, the Buddha is referred to as Bodhisattva before he become enlightened. Yeah, it is a Bodhisattva. All his previous lives were Bodhisattva. Thousands of them, previous to becoming historical Buddha, he's called Bodhisattva. And in many ways, all of us are Bodhisattvas. We are aspirant Bodhisattvas who are devoted to the teachings and aspiring to become the Bodhisattva's way of life. With the small steps, we try to learn how to adhere to the life of the Buddha, Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattvas who are aspiring Bodhisattvas, and then of course then they are realized Bodhisattvas, Arhats and so on, and then of course these are really Bodhisattvas who have reached bhumis and stages. So here the Bodhisattva refers to Prince Siddhartha. So this is after Bodhisattva has escaped the palace with his attendant Chandaka and the horse. It seems they have just returned home, and now the Bodhisattva is now by himself in the forest. So the book goes saying, the Bodhisattva, having cut off the locks on the crown of his head, of course. In those days, even in today in India, people tend to keep their hairs very long until one of their parents passes away. Then they all shave. Anyway, so a Buddhist Bodhisattva, for the sake of being a prince, they always keep their hair long, because hair is part of beauty and elegance, and whatever that case might be. So he cut off the locks of crown of his head, because cutting hair, shaving your beard was part of Buddhism. It says, oh, what did he do? His head is shaven and beard's cut. So it's completely shaven, and that's a change of sign, they call it, change of appearance. So how do you know someone has become monastic? That they have shaven the hair and also shaven the beard. So here it's cut off the locks of the crown of his head and put on the reddish garments of an ascetic, assumed the character of a mendicant monk, and went first to the abode of Brahmaravata and other hermitages. So here it talks about the Buddha, the Prince Siddhartha cut his own hair, and now he is now in search of a teacher. He went to go and study with Raivata. Raivata is one of the contemporary teachers of the time and other hermitages. Finally, he attend Vaishali, and meaning he reached Vaishali and came to the place where Arada Kalama. So that is one of the prominent teachers of the Buddha, Arada Kalama, was teaching about the mystic absorption in the sphere of nothingness to his 300 pupils. So during those days, there was already a teaching of nothingness, which means nihilism, that there is nothing. So there was many spiritual ascetics seeking various paths, and there were those who propagate that. The Bodhisattva expressed the wish to become likewise a pupil. So Bodhisattva Siddhartha asked himself to become a pupil of Arada, and having undergone the necessary training, attained the state of the mind absorbed in the sphere of nothingness. So Arada taught Bodhisattva how to meditate on the emptiness, and he reached as high as the sphere of nothingness is, and even surpassed the realization of his teacher. He then asked Arada, have you attained only this degree of concentration? So then the Bodhisattva actually checked on with Arada. Says, is this the only sort of level of degree of concentration you've achieved? And his teacher, Arada, said, yes, replied Arada. The Bodhisattva said, I too have attained it now. So the Bodhisattva said, look, I too have attained this realization, just as you have realized. To this Arada said, what thou knowest, I know, and what I know, thou knowest. Accordingly, we shall teach the assembly of disciples both together. So the teacher was very thrilled to see how quickly Bodhisattva has advanced. And then he said, let us both go and teach the crowd. Thereupon the Bodhisattva thought, by this degree of concentration only, deliverance is not to be attained. But Bodhisattva knew that this attainment of the realization that his teacher claimed to have realized, which also he attained. He said, this definitely is simply inadequate. One must seek for something more efficient than this. So he was very certain that that wasn't quite the ideal realization. Accordingly, he departed and gradually made his way to Magadha. The Magadha means the central middle kingdom, because it's quite central India, the central part of India, even today it's Magadha. When he reached the mountain Pandava and rested there, so finally he reached there and he rested there. Thereupon he entered the Rajgriha by the Tapoda gate. So entered the city, one of the ancient 6 cities in India, Rajgriha. The citizens of their king Bimbisara, full of faith, offer him part of kingdom. Because by this time, the Bodhisattva has already attained a fair degree of realization that is taught by his teacher Arada, and he's become quite a teacher on his own standing. And at that time, the King Bimbisara, that's the father of Ajatasattu, who actually already have a fond of him and have faith in the teachings of the teachings of the Bodhisattva. Not that the Bodhisattva was openly teaching very much, but offered him part of his kingdom, because when Bimbisara saw the Prince Siddhartha roaming there as a mendicant, he offered his kingdom, but Bodhisattva refused. Thereafter, he met Udraka Ramaputra. This is a second prominent teacher of the day, who was teaching to his 700 pupils about the concentration of mind in the sphere where there's neither consciousness nor unconsciousness and thought. So this is a kind of a meditative trance where you can reach that level. But such exercises of austerity I shall produce an elevated state of the mind and get rid of every kind of contemplation that is influenced by defiling agencies. Accordingly, he declared that he would be one of the disciples of Udraka and soon attain the state of mind absorbed in the sphere in which there is neither consciousness nor unconsciousness. So Bodhisattva, having left the previous teacher. Now he's become disciple of Udraka. Udraka of Ramaputra it's called. Then having spoken with Udraka and before with Aradakalama, he left him saying, "This is not conducive to nirvana." From that time, 5 disciples who studied with Udraka followed the Bodhisattva. So this 5, the mendicant that we usually talk about, have been studying with Udraka. Because the Bodhisattva have now left Udraka too, then those 5 who were follower of the Udraka has now also followed the Bodhisattva. And when they arrive at the summit of the Mount Gaya, so Mount Gaya is near one of the mountains near Bodh Gaya. The Bodhisattva had a sudden flash of idea regarding 3 points of resemblance unknown and unheard of before, referring to ascetic and brahmanas who have not abandoned their desires. Then the Bodhisattva, having come to the sphere of river Niranjana, so Bodhisattva was walking around, and when he come to the river Niranjana, thought as follows. Then he thought follows: I have come to this world at the time of 5 kinds of degeneration. So he's talking about how degenerate the time was. We usually say these days it's a degenerate time, the 5 kinds of degeneration. These 5 kinds of degeneration is they talk about degeneration of sentient beings, affliction, and the life, and the dharma, and the view. That everybody have kind of a view that is not appropriate, and people were leading a decadent life, and most are neglecting and abandoning the spiritual path, and so on. So anyway, at the time when these 5 degeneration come about, amidst living beings who are devoted to a teaching of low order and to think to attain purification by incorrect religious observances. So he realized that's definitely a sign of a degeneration. People are seeking lower teachings, and by observing these views, and they think they are actually practicing the correct way, when in fact is incorrect religious observance. In order to be able to remove these false views, I must begin the practice of the true form of penance and asceticism. So then he realized that he need to follow resolutely the correct path, rather than following the pseudo-spiritual path taught by the Alara and Udraka. So this now made him to go much deeper into meditation than may have been suggested by previous teachers. So that then heading is the number 8, the practice of asceticism. Accordingly, after he abided for 6 years in a state of concentration called all-pervading, all-pervading. All-pervading. During 6 years, he underwent the most rigid austerity, feeding upon 1 grain of jujube, and 1 grain of sesamum, and 1 grain of rice, and suspending his breath. At the time, as he was sitting there immovable, some of Devaputra said to his mother Maya Devi. So this is talking about Buddha. This is the Siddhartha Gautama, whose mother has passed away when he was barely 1 week old. She was reborn, it is said, in the 33 realm gods as a goddess. And she was informed by the Devas, thy son is dead. She came down from the realm of heaven, saw the body of Bodhisattva resembling a corpse, and began to lament, because they misinformed her, saying, your son is dead. But when she came to look upon, Bodhisattva's body has really emaciated. It looks like his body was like a corpse. And she was really sad. Oh, my son, said she, immediately after thou wert born, thou hast declared, this is my last birth. Now remember, when he was born, he walked 7 steps on each direction, and he said that this is his last rebirth, and this he will attain enlightenment, he will be the Lord of the world. And she's now reminding him that this is my last word. Now this thy promise has not been fulfilled. And the prophecy of the sage, Asita, remember that Asita was the one of the sage who cried and sobbed and saying that he is too old and so is his nephew. He said, look, you may be able to hear teachings from this, but by the time this princess Bodhisattva get enlightened, I'll be dead. So he was very lamenting his future. So, and he's therefore prophesied that Buddha will teach and attain Buddhahood. Now this thy promise has not been fulfilled, and the prophecy of the sage Asita regarding future Buddha proves to be untrue. So she came to complain to Buddha, saying the story that the prophecy made by Asita and that is all false. Look at this. Look at what you're going through. You're nearly dead. Your body looks so weak, and there's no sign of you getting enlightenment. So this is the story that Buddha's mother, who is reborn into Triyatrimsa, which is 33 realm gods, she came down and spoke to the Buddha like that. And then the Bodhisattva replied, may the sun, the moon, and the multitude of stars fall on the ground. But I shall not die, as I am now, an ordinary being. Therefore, thou must not be grieved for a short time. Thou shalt witness my enlightenment and attainment of Buddhahood. So, what did the Bodhisattva did? He gave assurance to her that even the sun and the moon and all the stars may fall on the ground. But still, I will not die. I will not die as an ordinary person. So he's very resolute that he will attain enlightenment. Thus he spoke. Mayadevi, delighted, returned to her abode. So, because Mayadevi is Buddha's mother's name, Mayadevi. Maya means illusory, and the Devi means goddess of illusion. She returned to the heavenly realm of the 33 realm gods. And as he continued to sit with us, stirring the village cowherds and others stuffed cotton into his ears, but cast it out from the nose. So because these kids and children, and maybe some adult also, they couldn't believe someone sitting so still and looked like a skeleton, but still they're checking whether he's alive or deceased. So they were poking needles and stakes and all of that tried to disturb him in the meditation. Then the evil one approaching him addressed him with pleasant sounding words. When this was happening, the demon came and spoke to the Buddha. Maintain, cherish thy life, etc. But although he thus sought an opportunity to lead the Bodhisattva to temptation, he found none. Then the Bodhisattva thought, in order to get rid of incorrect view, that through the practice of asceticism alone, one can attain salvation. I shall now take more substantial food and thereafter go to Bodhimandala, Bodhimanda. Bodhimanda refers to the place where the Bodhi's enlightenment is won. As he said this, the 5 disciples lost their faith in him and went off to Benares. These are the 5 friends that are supposed to follow him, but now they start losing faith, saying this Prince Gautama is gluttonous. He now want to eat, and so he's going against the vow of fasting that he took. Now he's going to eat. After that, Bodhisattva got the rags in which the body of Radha, the servant of the Sujata, had been wrapped, washed it in a pond dug out by the gods on a flat stone put there by Indra. Then, having get tired, he resolved to get out of the pond. The evil one, in order to hinder him suddenly by magical power, produced high rocks on the banks of the pond. But the nymph of the tree caused the branches of the latter to bend down. The Bodhisattva grasped them and drew himself out. Then, at the foot of the kuba tree, he stitched together the garment rags, and having put over the clothes of reddish hue, presented him to him by one of the gods of the pure region, entered the village that was in the neighborhood in order to get some food. And summoned by the gods, Sujata is the Brahmin girl, Brahmin prepared food for him, having taken 7 times the cream from a milk of 1,000 cows and cast into it fresh grains of rice. And as in food prepared by her, the Shrivasta and other lucky signs were to be seen. She became delighted, and the soothsayer prophesied that she would obtain nectar of immortality. Then she invited the Bodhisattva to eat, and having filled a golden vessel with honey and the broth of milk she had prepared, she presented to him, and he, having accepted, he went to the bank of Niranjana. There he deposited the food, and his garments likewise began to wash. The gods worshipped him and poured water upon his body. His hair and beard were carried off by Sujata, as relics, of course. And thereafter he seated himself on a seat supported by lions, which was presented to him by Naga maiden of the river, and took his meal. Having eaten his, he cast the golden vessel into the water, and was carried away by Sagara, king of Nagas. But Indra, having obtained it from him, brought it to the realm of 33 gods, worshipped it there, and celebrated a feast in its honor. So this is a story about Buddha was offered this rice pudding with milk by Sujata in a very special golden vase, golden bowl. And Buddha, having consumed the food that she offered, threw that golden vessel, golden bowl into the river. And of course, he doesn't want to own or possess any precious metal, let alone the whole vase. So that's why he actually threw away. And then it says the Nagas came, and because they fetched that vase, because it is blessed vase from which the Buddha ate, and they took it to the realm of 33 realm gods, and they worshipped there as relics. So that's the story of the Buddha, Prince Siddhartha, practicing 6 years of asceticism. 9th is the victory over the evil one. So this is a conquest of the Maras. How did the Buddha actually conquer the Maras? Mara means demons. Then the Bodhisattva, having washed and taken his meal, grew full of strength, and with superhuman energy set off toward the Bodhi tree and went in order to vanquish Mara. So the Buddha deliberately went, he having restored his health, then he went to attain enlightenment, the Bodhi tree. Also, as soon as he went there, that's when the Maras came to attack him out of jealousy. The deities of the rain and the wind moistened his path and strew flowers upon it, and all the mountains and trees bent down to the direction of the Bodhi Mandala. So wherever Buddha went, the mountain, the nature actually bowed down towards the Buddha. And even the newborn infants showed him the way with their heads, and they slept with their faces turned to that direction. So there was an incredible sign of Buddha attaining enlightenment, even all of these things happening. And Brahma, the powerful one, the Lord of 3,000 worlds, summoned all the surround him to worship, as the Bodhisattva was to reach Bodhi Mandala that evening. So everybody was really excited to witness the enlightenment of the Buddha. Accordingly, the inconceivable acts of worship were performed. And from the body of the Bodhisattva there came forth a light, through which all suffering and turmoil was pacified, spirits of converts rendered pure. Seeing this, Kalika, the king of Nagas, otherwise worshipped the Bodhisattva. Thereafter, the later, seeing the right side of the road tuft of swastika grass, address it as follows. Oh, give me. So this is talking about the grass. That's the night before Buddha attained enlightenment. Oh, give me quickly the bundle of grass. Today, such grass will be of great use to me. Having vanquished Mara and his hosts, I shall attain supreme enlightenment and quiescence. And it presented him with a bundle of grass, green, soft, and pleasant to feel. Having taken it, he thrice walked around the Bodhi tree, spread the grass with the tops of inward and roots outward, and looking toward the east, sat down, erected himself, and concentrating his mind, said, May, as long as I sit here, may my body wither away, may the skin, the bones, and the flesh decay. But until I have not attained enlightenment, which is hard to be secured even during many eons, I shall not move from this spot. So this is actually, Buddha the prince actually has made the solemn vow that he will not move from this spot until he attains enlightenment. So talking about how difficult it is to attain enlightenment, excuse me. Such was the powerful oath he uttered. At that time, the gods, in order to protect the Bodhisattva, placed themselves at the 10 quarters of the sky, and Bodhisattva caused a light to issue from his body, called the light summoning the Bodhisattva. This light was seen throughout innumerable regions, and many bodhisattvas, having assembled, worshipped him. So the enlightenment accompanied many bright, luminous lights spreading everywhere. So that's why many people thought it was due to this, due to that. Most didn't know it was due to Buddha attaining enlightenment. Then he thought, it is not proper for me to attain enlightenment without having made it known to the Mara. So he said, look, I can't just sneakily getting enlightenment and not inform the Mara, the demon. So I must actually tell him that I'm attaining enlightenment. And accordingly, he let a light called destroyer of all realms of Mara issue from his forehead, and the Buddha sent radiated light. This light caused all the abodes of the evil ones to be seen, made them tremble and darkened them, and following words were to be heard. So when the Buddha decided to do that, there was this supernatural phenomena people could witness. The purest living beings who has practiced virtue during numerous eons, the son of Shuddhodana. Shuddhodana is Buddha's father's name. Shuddhodana. Shuddho means pure, dana means food, so it means pure food. Because all of the Buddha's uncles who were also dana, Shuddhodana and Amritodana and so on, all the names are, they all seem to use the second name together, same. Dana means food. Shuddhodana, son of Shuddhodana, having renounced his royal power, has departed from home with the wish of helping others, striving for the nectar of immortality, and has now come to Bodhi tree. Take care, therefore, now, O Mara. So the Mara was informed, because Maras usually always busybodily cause some interruption, if possible, which it never does, to the enlightened one. So, and so on. And the Mara, the evil one, had 32 dreams, and his abode was covered with darkness and the like, made this to make this known to his adherents. Mara's son, Sarvavata, tried to divert him from going to encounter the Bodhisattva, but in vain. In the forms of yakshas, vampires, great serpents, of cannibals, demons, ghosts, and fiends, terrifying hideouts and fears, did Mara cunningly transform all his hosts. But although he beheld such and many other frightful forms, the son of the Shakya, having cognized that all elements are relative and essentially unreal, and being endowed with the mind all-pervading and quiescent like sky, did not become deluded on seeing all the cunning of the evil one's hosts. Thereafter, the Mara was persuaded by those of his adherents who stood on the right side and sympathize with the Bodhisattva to abstain from further contest. On the contrary, those on the left who were hostile to him urged Mara to continue the strife. And Mara hurled various weapons at the Bodhisattva, but these were all transformed into flowers. And the evil one said, How can thou attain liberation only by these thy merits? The Bodhisattva replied, Thou hast performed one unimpeded sacrifice, and hast by the correct virtue of it become the Lord of the world of desire. I, on my turn, have made many unimpeded sacrifices. The sacrifice performed by me, said Mara, was unimpeded and irreproachable. Thou art of the willingness of it. But for thy deeds there is no witness whatever. Therefore all thou sayest is useless. Thou art defeated. And to this the Bodhisattva said, The earth is my witness, and striking the earth with his right hand. This is the exact moment the Buddha changed his hand, meditative posture. This hand gesture, he put his right hand on his knee, which is called calling the earth to witness. So when you see a Buddha image like one you can see, with the right hand on the right knee, that's exactly the statue of enlightenment. During the time when the Buddha got enlightenment, that's what his hand moved from, whatever meditative posture he was in the enlightened stage. So usually it's body language. When someone is enlightened, they just, their body language will shift from meditative stage to the enlightened stage, and so on. The earth is support of all living beings. It is equal and it is impartial. With regard to all that does and does not move, may it bear witness, even that I do not lie, it may be the witness before you. So that's what the Bodhisattva said, asking the earth to bear witness. So that's what this earth-touching gesture, which is the right hand touching on the right knee, is called that earth-touching gesture, asking the earth to witness that he's a fully enlightened one. And he said thus, the earth trembled 6 times and came out Stavara, the goddess of earth, showing half of her body with folding hands, said, O highest of the beings, so it is, as thou hast said, so it is perfectly pure. It is all evident and clear to me. But, O Lord, thou art thyself the highest witness of the truth for all world, including gods. Thus spoke she and disappeared. And the cunning one with his host, having heard the voice of the earth, like jackals hearing the lions roar, in the forest, like ravens of the sounds of the missile, fled the hearts full of wrath and fear. Thereafter, the evil one, disappointed, set his own daughters to disturb the Bodhisattva. They tried 32 ways to seduce him by covering half of their faces, but all their efforts were unable to delude the Bodhisattva, to the great distress of the evil one. Then Shri, the other three nymphs, 8 in number, praised the Bodhisattva in 16 different ways, saying, Thou art beautiful, like the disk of ascending autumn moon, and so on. In the 60 forms, likewise did these deities scorn the Maras. O evil one, thou art feeble, like an elephant had fallen into a mire, etc. And in 16 different ways did the gods try to divert Mara, but in vain. He again hurled different missiles at the Bodhisattvas and showed many miraculous apparitions, but gained no ground by this. The host of demons dispersed in confusion, and for 7 days they could not meet together again. And many demons at the time made creative effort for supreme enlightenment. So that is the conquest of the Maras. Now the 10th act is the attainment of supreme enlightenment. Thereafter the Bodhisattva became absorbed in the 4 degrees of trance. the jhanas, so these 4 degrees of jhana, and obtained the 3 kinds of highest knowledge. Then, from the last part of the night, before sunrise, and within the space of time of beating of the drum, he came to the cognition of the 12 members of the causal chains of the 12 of the fourth truths of the saint. And after that, by the force of momentary highest wisdom, he attained the full enlightenment, grew to the height of 7 palm trees, and made following solemn utterance. Grew means he levitated. He levitated 7 times the height of the tree. Finish is the course of my path, and so on. And the gods strewed flowers which covered his feet up to his knees and worshipped him. The world grew full of light, earth trembled, and all the Buddhas in the 10 quarters of the sky became full of highest delight and saluted him, saying, just as we have attained enlightenment before, in the same way thou hast likewise come to Buddhahood, being pure like clarified butter in its essence. And the daughters of the god likewise praise him. The teacher in his turn made another solemn utterance. The fruit of virtue is bliss and removal of all suffering, the projects of virtues being met with success. Having vanquished Maras, and he attained enlightenment. And the cool quiescence essence of nirvana at an early date, and then after the gods had again greatly praised him, he remained for a week, sitting immovably in a cross-legged posture and contemplated the Bodhi tree. On the 2nd week, he made his journey through, this is talking about 7 weeks after attaining enlightenment. Buddha didn't teach anybody, but instead he will rest in the forest by observing noble silence. So, but during that 7 week, he had a realization each week. So that's what referring to. On the 2nd week, he made his journey through the 3,000 worlds, thousands of the worlds. On the 3rd, he again contemplated Bodhi tree without shutting his eyes. On the 4th week, he made another walk, not so long as the first, to the eastern and the western. Thereafter, Mara, evil one, entreated him to depart into Nirvana. But as the Buddha declared that, having accomplished the aim of all comforts, he would not pass over, Mara was again disappointed. His daughters, Rati, and the rest approached the Buddha in order to seduce him, but he transformed them into old hags. On the 5th week, there was rainy and stormy weather, and at that time Buddha abided in the realm of Naga king Muchilinda. On the 6th week, he went to Nigrodha tree of Ajapala and addressed the Parivarjakas as follows. Blissful is the solitary life of him who has heard the doctrine, perceived the truth, and full of uninterrupted bliss in his life. Who has subdued the animate beings, but has not done harm to anybody, and so on. On the 7th week, he abided at the foot of the sacred fig tree. The merchant Trapusa and Balika offered him honey and rice gruel and sugar cane, the bark of which had been taken off. But he thought, it is not suitable to take this food with one's hands. With the previous Buddhas, it was in bowl in which they accept offering. And the 4 guardian kings offered him vessels made out of gold, etc., but did not take them, knowing that bowls of the former Buddhas had not been made of stone. Accordingly, each of the 4 kings took one of the 4 vessels that were presented to Vaisravana by the deities of the blue region, filled with flowers, offered them and made their salutation to the Lord, which said, "Give the mendicant's bowl to the Buddha, and thou shalt be for thyself the vessel of thy doctrine, and he who offers a bowl to such like me will never be deprived of wisdom and memory." Such and similar words he uttered, accepted the 4 vessels had pronounced of blessings by the force of which they were transformed into one. Then Trapusha and Balika Prepare cream taken from milk of 1,000 cows. Pour it into a trough made out of precious stones and offer to him. And the Buddha, after having taken his meal, cast away the trough, which was carried out by Brahma. Then the teacher granted the following benediction to Trapusha and Balika. The blessings of the divine bring a fortune to all countries and bring to accomplishment all the desired realms. And your projections are to be fulfilled, and everything will soon be favorable to you. This and the following, he said, prophesied them to be the Buddhas known by the name of Madhu Sambhava. The 11th is the swinging the wheel of the doctrine. So we call turning the wheel of Dharma. Swinging the wheel of Dharma sounds a bit funny. Swinging like this. It's actually called spinning the wheel of Dharma. Thereafter, the teacher seated himself, intending to abide in silence, indifferent, and said, I have secured the cognition of the truth profound, free from defilements, illuminating eternal nectar light. But if I should demonstrate to others, they will not understand. Therefore, I shall abide in the solitude in the forest. But then he thought, infinite is my concentration with regard to all that lives. And I must not hesitate when others pray me. These living beings are devoted to the Brahma, so if he prays me, I shall swing the wheel of the doctrine. Accordingly, he caused the light to issue from his body. The Brahma, the created, the Lord of 3,000 worlds, come to know this, summon his adherents, and with 6,800,000 other deities of the Brahmaloka enter the Buddha with folded hands, saying, Thou hast attained the sphere of sublime wise divine wisdom, and the rays of the wisdom expanding through the 10 quarters of the sky cause to open these lotuses, which are the living beings. O thou son of sublime speech, why does thou know remain indifferent? With such similar words, like the summon of the Buddha, and the latter express his consent by silence, the Brahma departed, and the Buddha in his turn remained sitting as if quite different from the Buddha's exhortation. Thereupon, Indra likewise entered him, saying, My mind has obtained complete deliverance, like the full moon delivered from the jaws of Rahu. I pray thee, rise up, thou who has conquered the Mara, and let the light of thy wisdom appear in the darkness of this world. Thus spoke he, but Buddha did not give or answer a word. Then Brahma again answered him, O great sage, I pray thee the profound doctrine, for there are such of the who desirous of hearing it. The teacher replied, The living beings are fettered by bonds of desire, and by carrying out the stream of phenomenal life, I, in my turn, having come to the initiation of the truth, with great difficulty. For this reason, there is no use of teaching it. Again, the teacher gave up his own mind to indifference, and various unlucky signs appeared. But the Buddha did not blaze forth, and so on. Having seen this, Brahma said, In this kingdom of Magadha, in impure teaching, produced by the deified thoughts, has been preached. Therefore, O sage, I pray to thee to admit us the nectar, and may the innumerable doctrine of the Buddha be heard. Thus he spoke indeed. The Buddha shook his head, looked upon the living beings who were unsteady as regard to the means of deliberation, and gave his constant saying, I shall admit to the nectar those of living beings who have ears to hear, are possessed of faith, and always listen to the doctrine, free from sinful thoughts. Thereafter the deities of the Bodhi tree, Dharmaruchi, and others asked, Where shalt thou turn the wheel of doctrine? He replied, In Benares. To this he said, there are few people in that place. There is no shade. It will be better to preach elsewhere. O ye fair-faced, do not say so, returned he. Then he reflected as to who could be those disciples who were easy to convert, to whom he was to teach the doctrine first of all. And knowing that Udraga died a week before Arada Kalama had likewise passed away 3 years ago, he resolved to teach the doctrine to the 5 disciples. Accordingly, from Magadha he went to Benares, and on the way he met a beggar, who him addressed as follows: "The faculties are so acute, and why skin is pure? From whom thou hast thou learned to live in virtue?" The Lord replied, "There is none who could be my teacher, none who could be my equal. I am unique Buddha, perfectly calm and free from defilements." Thereupon the beggar replied, "Dost thou call thyself Arhat?" The Lord replied, "I am the perfect Arhat in the world. I am the teacher greater than those who were therein with me. And there is not a being who could not like me, including the gods, Asuras, Gandharvas." The beggar asked again, "Dost thou say that thou art a Buddha, one who is called the victorious one?" The teacher said, the victorious, the Buddha are faced, are those who, like himself, have become to be extirpation of defilements. I have vanquished all that is sinful, therefore, Upaka, I am the victorious. Whither thou going? Inquired the beggar. "To Benares I intend to go. Having come to the illusory city, I shall produce an unsurpassable light for the sake of the world that is like blind." The beggar said, "May it be so," and departed to the south. Teacher, in his turn, went northward, reached the mountain Gaya, Rohitavatsu, Uvirlakalapa, and Anala, went from there to the city called Saritapura, and finally came to the shores of the Ganges. And there the ferrymen asked him for passage money. "I have none," replied the teacher. Rose up into air and passed over the river. This came to be known by the king Bimbisara, who forbade after that is open to on loan from many monks. Buddha then came to Benares, collected alms, took his meal, and he went to a place called Risipatana. Risipatana is the deer park. The 5 disciples who had left him saw him coming and said, "The ascetic Gautama has slackened in his history, has eaten plentifully, and has neglected the removal of all that is worthy, is now coming here. No one need to rise up and present him with religious robes and bowls. If he wants, we may seat himself on the seat that is left." Such was agreement. Such an agreement arose up there. One went to Buddha teacher, another prepared the seat for him, the water to wash his feet, etc. Welcome, they said, pray to sit thyself on the seat. Teacher seated himself and spoke many a word to the 5 disciples and excited their joy. The 5 said, "O long-lived Gautama, by thy senses are acute and thy skin body is pure. Hast thou made manifest the special intuitive knowledge?" The Buddha replied, "You must not call the Buddha long-lived one. A long period of time does not bring happiness. I have obtained the nectar, I have become the Buddha and omniscient. Have you not made just a new agreement in order to show disrespect to me?" And as he spoke thus, they became monks under his orders, fell to his feet, confessed all the sins, became full of reverence. After the Buddha had refreshed his body, he thought, where am I to turn the wheel of the doctrine? And at that place where there appeared 1,000 seats made of the 5 kinds of jewels. The teacher circumambulated 3 of these that had belonged to the previous Buddha, and then seated himself on the 4th. And after he had done this, light issued from his body, illuminating 3,000 worlds. The earth trembled, and the living beings became purified. Thereupon the gods trembled. The gods presented him a golden wheel with 1,000 spokes, and prayed to him to swing the wheel of the doctrine. During the first quarter of the night, he did not utter a word, but then at midnight he spoke so as to gladden his disciples. And finally, from the last quarter of the night, he began the preach of the 5. O monks, there are 2 extremes which are to be abandoned, by which who has embraced religious life. There are extremity of license and that of self-torture. The Buddha teaches the doctrine as long being the middle way, shunning both those examples. This middle way is the eightfold path of truth. O monks, there are 4 truths and captured principles of the same. There is the uneasiness of the phenomena of life, and there is the cause of the extinction and the path that leads to the extinction. Then phenomena existence is to be recognized, its cause is to be removed, and so on. And the phenomena existence is recognized, its cause removed, etc. In such a way, he thrice entered in the subject of the 4 truths and turned the wheel of Dharma in 12 different ways. The consequence was Kaudinya became the Arhat, and he came to full realization, the cognition of the 3 jewels. Thus, in 12 forms did the Buddha swing the wheel of doctrine, and Kaudinya came to the full recognition and realization of the 3 jewels. In regard to this swinging of the wheel of the doctrine, we must distinguish 5 points. 1, the place. 2, time. 3rd is hearers, and the doctrine itself, and its aim, and 5th is its aim. The first was Branaras, the place. Time was according to some 6 years, 6 months, according to Chinese. 7 years, and according to Chak, 7 years about in months. The hearers were Kaudinya, Asvajit, Vashpa, and Manama, and Bhadrika. 5 men and numerous assembly of gods. The doctrine was that the 4 truths repeated 3 times, thus representing the swinging of the wheel in 12 forms. In the Abhidharma Kosha, it is said, the wheel of the doctrine represents the teaching of the path of enlightenment, and the latter resembles a wheel by which swift movement, etc., and by its component parts likewise. Thus, the path of illumination is called the wheel of the doctrine, since it has a resemblance, and the wheel by which a swift movement swing away the turning, subduing that which has not been subdued, fix all that which has been subdued, ascending and descending. The Venerable Goshaka says, of the eightfold path, the same, the correct view, correct reflection, correct exertion, correct recollection, and the spokes of the wheel, appropriate speech, acts, means of livelihood are not the rivals. But finally, correct concentration is to go on circumstances of the wheel. Owing to all these points of resemblance, the eightfold path is the saint, which is wheel of the doctrine. We have it together. However, usually said the path of illumination is called the wheel of the doctrine. The realization of path in the form of devotee of Kaudinya is spoken of the swinging of the swinging of the wheel of the doctrine. It has been repeated 3 times. This is the unaware. This is uneasiness of phenomena like, etc. Phenomena existence is to be utilized, to be fully cognized, etc. 3. Phenomena existence has been fully recognized, etc. With regard to each of these three repetitions, it has been said, the vision of this has arisen, recognition, the full full apprehension and an analysis of this had been brought. The path free from impediments, path of deliverance, and the spiritual special path have been demonstrated as representing the 12 aspects of the teaching, but it may be said we have altogether 12 repetitions in the 64 aspects. This is not mistake in this, since the division in the 33 realm and the 12 to respond to each of the other. According to the Vaibhashikas, the three repetition of the research reference of the wheel demonstrate the wheel of enlightenment, contemplation, and ultimate Buddha. But in such a case, the swinging of the wheel of the doctrine could not consist of the 3 racehorse and 12 forms, since the path of illumination alone would not represent all the three references. For this reason, the doctrine is called prayer of the wheel. The 3 recurrence of the 4 truths and saint as repeated 3 times. The 12 forms of aspects are: this is phenomena existent, this is its cause, this is the extinction of phenomena of exercise, this is the path leading to the enlightened extinction. Phenomena existent is to be fully recognized, its cause is to be removed, extinction is to be realized, the path to be made is objective concentration. A phenomena existence has been fully recognized, its cause has been reviewed. Extinction is realized. The path is made in order to as the object of concentration, and the swinging of the wheel means introducing it to making it intelligible to the mind or another person. The aim obtained by swingings as follows: at the first assurance, the path of illumination was realized in the name of Kaudinya and numerous gods. And the second, Kaudinya attained arhatship and said, illuminated likewise, became the originated the kinds of the 4 other disciples. Finally, at the 4 and the 3 swinging and 4 likewise became arhats. This was because direct him attained. The indirect or special aim was to cause the converts to abstain from various views, maintaining the reality of the individual as an independent whole. Therefore, to make them a part of the 4 results of saintliness. As the concern and teaching of the intermediate period, the wheel of the doctrine is non-substantiality, the place where it was delivered at the time at the mountain Gritakutta. The duration of time was, according to the Topo, for 30 years, according to Chimpa, 27, according to the Chak, 31 years, and according to the male and female devotees, laity and bodhisattva, essentially that which is illuminated by pranayama and said, scripture of the intermediate period. According to the Dhamma Mitra, Prajnaparamita contains a twofold subject matter, the vision of the essence of doctrine and the process of the institution of the truth. The first is exposed in the Prajna Hridaya, etc. These discourses demonstrate the absolute truth, the non-substantiality of relative reality of all immense existence, and 30 media of deliverance. The second is exposed in the following sutras. The most detailed of its own is the Chatushataka, the most detailed explanation, intermediate compass. Intermediate of the intermediate, the Dasaka Sasika, the most abridged intermediate. This is talking about the Prajaparamita literature. Dasa Sasika, the most detailed of the abridged sutras. Asta Sasika, the most abridged of the abridged. Ratnaguna Sanchaya, these all have the same subject matter, which is the teaching about 8 forms of intuition of the path. There is a difference only in verbal part, the latter being either diffuse or abridged. So it is said in the commentary of the verse. This is only difference in the varieties of exposition, the abridged, etc. The first 5 have been expounded simultaneously. Indeed, the inquirers are the same as all the sutras. Moreover, in the part conquering the methods of purification sphere of Buddhist Buddhahood, the prophecy guide to the goddess of Ganges is everywhere the same. The latter fact is a decisive argument, for it is not proper that one and the same Buddha should foretell the attainment of enlightenment by one and the same person again and again. But it may be said, this disagrees with the fact that several prophecies have been delivered with regard to Nagarjuna. To this we answer. These prophecies were each of a different character. In some it was said that he would be the elucidator of the doctrine, in others that he would attain Buddhahood, etc. But the prophecy granted to the goddess of the Ganges is only that of future Buddhahood and is everywhere the same. Now, may it likewise be said, in the introductory chapters, it has been said that the hearers were 113, and afterwards we have stated their number was 5,000. This is contradictory. To this we say there is a difference here. In the first case, we have an enumeration of the different congregation, and in the second, the individuals that were present. In the Chatushahasika, the chapter containing the questions of Maitreya, and that on eternity, that which contains the sermon delivered at the Dharmogata and summary at the end, these 4 are absent. They have not been taught by Nagarjuna from the realm of the Nagas. It has moreover been said, although the Paramita has been delivered in one way, it has been differently understood by many different forms. Or to speak otherwise, the word is one, and it has been communicated with one. But it can be understood in a different way so that everyone can apprehend it, being convinced this is not for me. Accordingly, the in conformity with one's own faculty of understanding, which can be weak, the intermediate and acute, one is made to understand in 3 ways, that as detailed, intermediate, and abridged. So, have the compilers written it down? They have not been rehearsed it in such a manner themselves without any divine assistance. There is, however, no defect here. For this is a miracle produced by the blessings of the Buddha himself. This is affirmed by the teacher Trilaksha, Tiripala, so as say the translator Trupu and Chak. As concerns the Sanchaya, we regard with the commentary thereon, it has been subsequently delivered in the dialect of Magadha in order to give satisfaction to the 4 varieties of hearers. The aim of the teaching was to cause all those who had adhered to false views to abstain from these, subsequently to direct them to unique passages to salvation. The doctrine of non-substantiality, the relative, and the monism, it is said in the Lalisvita Sutra. The Buddha had turned the wheel of doctrine, that of the monism and relativity of the teaching, but there is no substance for me and no plurality, that nothing really appears and disappears new, and that nothing really increases or becomes diminished. The fact that these precepts represent the scriptures of intermediate period of the is indicated by Prajaparamita, and thus itself as follows. Although there arose the sound of the murmur of the gods in the sky, or in Jambudvipa, the second swinging of the wheel of the doctrine has a witness. Thus, 3. The world is doctrine. World of the doctrine is that which ascertains the aspect of ultimate reality. The place where it has been delivered was Malaya or Vaishali, etc. It is said that the hearers, circle of the hearers, consists of those devoted to him. Different vehicles that it would be correct if he would take his to mean. The Bodhisattva also entered all the different vehicles as concerned at the time during which it has been exposed. Tolo says that it was 12 years, Chimpa 5 years, Chak and others years, 26 or 27. I myself have not seen any authoritative sources for these different varieties of counting the time. The doctrine is that which definitely demonstrates absolute reality. At first, the earliest teaching completely subdued the nihilistic point of view, everything in all aspects, elements considered to be real in themselves. Owing to this incorrect, unrealistic expectation, imputation, realistic imputation could only be could easily grow predominant. With the view of this, Buddha has expounded the intermediate teaching in which negativity standpoint predominates. But in this scripture of the latest period of introduced themselves a different degree of realities, demonstrating the elements in their imputed aspect as totally non-existing, the elements in causally dependent aspect as having as real existence from standpoint of empirical reality, and 2 forms of the ultimate aspect as to represent ultimate reality. It is accordingly that which puts an end to the 2 extreme point of view contains the contrary. The 2 other swinging of the wheel of the doctrine are of conventional meaning and can be made an object of controversy. This is the opinion of Vijnanavadins. It is said in the Sandhi Nirmochana Sutra, thereafter, Paramartha Samudgata said to the Buddha as follows: Lord has first of all in the country of Risipatana, in the grove of antelopes, swing the wheel of the doctrine, demonstrating the 4 truths of the saint, to which we have entered the vehicle of the Shravakas. It was marvelous and wonderful teaching, similar to which none of this is true, whether gods or men have expounded before. But nevertheless, this wheel of the doctrine swung by the Lord was not the highest form of teaching expounded by him. There were other teachings to follow that were more sublime than it. The teacher's teaching of the Buddha left an opportunity for controversy. Much was of conventional meaning and an object of dispute. Yeah, I think we'll stop there. This is a good, convenient place to stop. Thank you, everyone. Okay, let's do the dedication of marriage. Thank you, everyone. O Buddhist Merumavaga Dadiva Pensagehonis Meale Peredo Bisrandi Oshana Bata Desinede Herenda Mahayana Dije Whatever Merera Rasa Trehoda Mahayana Jiji Kareja Manju Shinyode Asama Drabaradilawa Walove Avade Zamba Aishade Dege Mere Mede Selem Bodhi Jida Tebe Veranaya Danza Where has been bombarding freely without generation. Thank you, Ron.